Hello friends, and welcome back to my Aruba Mobility series of videos. This is the third one in that series, and here I will show you how to add mobility controllers to your Mobility Masters. Now, in my case, I will start with downloading Aruba VMC OVA image from their website and installing it to my ESXI server. Now, if you're new to this channel and somehow stumble upon this video, remember this is the part 3. Part 1 and 2s are already there and you should visit them before you proceed with this one. Uh, Chapter 3 in the Aruba ACMP curriculum talks about licensing as well as talks about how to add your mobility controllers to your I have covered licensing in detail and all you need to know about licensing in part 2 video, but seriously there's a lot more to licensing than that. What about the question, what happened if your mobility controller loses access to your mobility masters? What happened to that, and what happened during that outage? Your controllers restarts, because remember, mobility masters handles the licensing. So there are a lot more to licensing, and if you guys want to know about it, please let me know. Leave your comment below and I will try to make a video covering those scenarios. For now, let's go ahead, proceed with what we want to talk about on this chapter is how to install your mobility controller, virtual mobility controllers, and downloading it from the VMC to installing and configuring it. Now, once again, you would need to have some sort of support license or contract with Aruba to be able to download these images. I have a partner access, so I'm able to download. So here's the OVA that I need, 8711, and I will go ahead. But before I go ahead, I want to show you something, the actual guidance, the guidelines for this one particular version of image that you're downloading. Go and download that and go over it. It might come handy with the updates that particular image had made, the issues that they have resolved, and to go back. Let me go ahead and download and. So yeah, going back to the release notes, very important. Now, if it's a production environment, you might want to definitely go over it, the bug that it's resolved, the added features that it has. So go over it if you have time. Let's go ahead and install our newly downloaded VMC OVA. Here I have my vSphere client. I will be installing it under Nashville resource pool. So file, deploy OVA template. Let's browse it. Should be in the download folder. This is the 18711. I will be installing 2 copies. I would, because I want to do a cluster of virtual mobility controllers. For the later videos, just like I did 2 I will be doing 2 VMC. Now, depending on your infrastructure, it may be big enough. You need to do a couple more, or hardware mobility controller. Uh, this part is not necessary for hardware mobility controller, but the following part, upon installing, when you turn these VMCs on, there will be a configuration steps, which from there, the steps are same for hardware mobility controller and virtual mobility controllers. So let's proceed. Very important part to remember, where are you installing your mobility controllers or virtual mobility controllers? For my case, I'll be installing it into VM network, which is my VLAN 15. You need to plan this ahead, because based on where you are installing your mobility controllers, your AP load balancing and your user load balancing will make a huge difference. So Layer 2, same Layer 2 domain, VLAN, is where you need your mobility controllers to service your APs and your users. In here, my AP and my mobility controller, as well as my mobility master, is going to be on the same VLAN. It doesn't have to be, but for my case, for this lab, they are on the same VLAN, VLAN 15. So let's remember that. So thick provision lazy 0. That's the recommended one if you are to install VMC for your production. Just wanted to show you one thing. If you do this, it's going to ask you for P0, P1. There's a partition 0 and partition 1. You have two boot partition that you can boot your VMC or your MM. The image is almost the same. What happened that if you're running partition 0 on 8.5 and you wanted to try out 8.7, you can install that on partition 1. Boot this VMC on with partition 1 by changing the boot parameter, and then test it out on your lab, and if all works fine, then you can do the same upgrade on your production gear. That's why we have partition 0 and partition 1. So I'll go ahead and boot with partition 0 for now. I made a video later on that I will upload it for upgrading your AOS in your mobility controller. This is just an overview. Alright, so VMC installation is completed. You can see there is this file keeps saying this will continue to go on. It asking you to activate server URL device arubanetworks.com. This is part of ZTP, zero touch provisioning. If you have that configured, you can provision a mobility controller by default out of the box. There are several key factors are involved in it. You have to have Central, Activate, and few other subscription from Aruba to get this done. A lot of our customers do this, but for this demo, I will just go ahead and stop the ZTP. And the prompt here, it says you have to put in one of the options. So mine would be full. And it's saying, are you sure that you want to stop auto provisioning and start the full setup dialog box? So yes. And it say you can it stops terminate the ZTP process and brings you to a prompt where you just enter the question they ask and it moves on to the next phase. Once again, for the newcomers, this is my existing lab that I'm working on, and part 1 of the video I have worked on going over creating the MMs, and these are the IPs. This is my HA address, the VRRP address for this pair of mobility masters, and these are my virtual mobility controllers that I just installed, VMC01 IPs and 02 IPs with an HA address. Just to follow this up before I continue configuring my mobility controllers to connect with the mobility masters. Here I am back. Enter system name, so it'll be VMC01. This is a managed device. It is not a standalone. IP terminate. Enter IP type to terminate IPsec tunnel or secured WebSocket connection. This is going to be IPv4. Master switch IP address or DNS name. So this is the MM IP that you want to provide, the HA address, the VRRP address. In my case, it's 192.168.15.tm. Enter master switch type. It is an MM. Sorry. Is this VPN concentrator? No, it is not. No. Yes, it is a virtual MM. Okay, it is going to use the IP. Here you're going to set a password, Aruba123, just go on basic. You will need this one when you go into the adding the controller from the MM. L3 redundancy, no. For my case, it's 15 untagged, so I can just simply say enter to this, or I can put 15. Okay, this is the uplink port, that is correct. And right now I will configure it for access, but later on I will show you that MCs usually trunk because they carry multiple VLAN information, because your SSID that you're going to broadcast would be based on your uh, VLAN, right? So you want employees to be on VLAN 15 or 16, or you want to guests to be on VLAN 600. That's the very, very, very generic idea of making your wireless segregated. But there are much more advanced way that will come later on. I will show you. But for now, I will do access. Later on, I will move this to trunk to carry multiple VLAN. Okay, here's my VMC address, 15101. That's right. Nope. Nope. US. I'll go with that. I can change that later on. Time is fine. Date is fine. Ah, yes, I want to create admin. Of course, you can guess the password. Can you not? Aruba123. Alright, looks good, looks good. 15101. Okay, VMC2 would be 15102. Alright, it is good. And this will go ahead and save the configuration and reload it. I will zip through the BMC02 configuration and we'll come back when they're both done, up and restarted. Alright, so my VMC02 is up after reload with the configuration. So is my VMC01. You can log in with the credential. So next step would be to go ahead and add these two controllers to your MM. I can do one at a time with its IP address, or I can just do a 0000 sub IP, and it will discover all your mobility controllers in that same VLAN. I can just show you one. Right, go to your mobility master, controllers, 192.168.15.101. Here you can do individual, or you can do 0000, and it will discover all of it. I'll just show you one. Remember during MC configuration, we created this password, very secure password, Aruba123. Go ahead, submit, pending changes, discover. I'll go ahead and add my second one. Let's do it this way. Now we wait a few seconds. Let's quickly jump onto one of the controllers. This is taking a sweet time. Here you would see if the controllers got added, or you can see your MM. All right, status is up. Update required. Let's take a look here. All right, we see one so far. Two, both got added. Okay. So as you saw that both ways, I showed you how to do it. Next, you need to move these two controllers that you just added to your mobility master to its respective managed network folders. Now, both of these are going to be in a cluster. So same VLAN, I will move them to my Nashville managed network folder. Uh, the goal is the way you can do, you can just click on add, of course, select controllers, you can put host name and the MAC addresses. Here you can pick your model tab, mine is MC-va. Before I do that, I need to capture my MAC address. So log into my mobility master. All right, here we go. We see the MAC addresses here. 101's MAC address, so copy this one. This is your hardware MAC address. I'll show you how else you can get this one. Go back to your mobility controllers and you can do show inventory. Here's that same, let me brought it down. All right, so here's the hardware MAC address, um, which is the mobility controller's MAC address that you need to add. So capture that data, go back to here, hostname VMC-01, MAC address that, and MC-va, submit. All right, I'll go ahead and add another one, my VMC 21. MC-va, submit, and save your changes. Alrighty. That's about um, adding your controllers. I'll go back to overview. One thing I would like to mention here, as you see, it just still says unknown, continue, and it will just show update successful. Right now it's getting all the license information and all the configuration that you have it under the Nashville managed directory. That particular folder, if any specific configurations are already there, it is going to pull from your MM and it will come into production in, takes about a few minutes. Back to my MM, and as you can see, show switches, says that all the updates are successful, they're up. Config sync time, and if you go over to your mobility controller itself, and you can do show switches, it also says that, okay, update was successful. This is a managed device. It's under building 1, floor 1 location. Um, model, all that information is there, what version it is running. So that's all the information that you need for adding your mobility controllers. Now, these are managed device, but they are not in a cluster yet. The fourth chapter on this book talks about multi-zone. Now, I cannot talk about multi-zone because I haven't added wireless LAN SSIDs, right? But and I will explain that. So I'll just skip chapter 4, go to chapter 5, which talks about clustering in details, and go ahead and configure those, show you all the needed information you need to have for your exam as well as for your knowledge. And then I will go back later on after creating wireless LANs, go back to multi-zone and show you how that is done. So once everything's added, you can come here, take a look that your controller shows up all green. Um, and over here on the VMC, if you go to manage folder, you get to see your controllers, all the information that you need to see. Um, so you can see that two controllers, they're not serving anything, no access point, no clients yet, just they're up. So let's quickly go over the licensing before we close this chapter. Mobility master licensing and global license pool. Let's take a look at it. Right now, you see only two licenses are utilized. There's no MCVA license. Well, you can say, Kunal, you install MCVA license. Why it's not utilizing it? MCVA license is only used if an MCVA was to service an AP. Right now, we're not servicing any APs yet, so it is just using two license. No other feature license or AP license are being used yet. But next stage, we create the cluster, we add the AP, and we add wireless LAN. You will start seeing those are being used. So I'm going to close it today. I hope you're enjoying my videos. Please let me know if I am missing any information that is pertaining to this chapter, and how can I best improve this experience of your learning. So thank you very much and keep learning.